Bitcoin has just changed the game for me, not even financially or with money. It's just changed my life. My life path has just shifted completely.
Bitcoin really just changes your lens on how you see the entire world, and that inevitably changes how you see the rest of your life unfolding.
The thought of working in a corporate job in a 9 to 5 for some big tech company, it sounds so excruciating, and it goes against almost entirely what Bitcoin stands for. You don't have control of your own life.
If you don't get on this Bitcoin train, you're going to be in an uphill battle.
We all have spending addictions. We continue shopping and shopping.
Your soul feels so much more at peace when you shift out of that consumer mindset and into the creator mindset.
Quite literally the most decentralized thing, the most objective thing that we have in the entire world.
It really is for everyone. No matter what you do in life, Bitcoin is for you. Today on The Signal, I'm joined by Nicki Sharma. She's the host of the Orange Peeled Pod and one of the brightest Gen Z voices in Bitcoin. As a college student who only discovered Bitcoin in 2025, Nicki has already grasped its profound significance for freedom, money, and the future of humanity. She's already orange-pilled many of her friends, and she represents the hope and momentum of a younger generation waking up to Bitcoin. Nicki, I'm super excited to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. That was a great intro, so I hope I can only live up to the expectations that you've set.
Yeah, I'm super excited because you represent something really powerful. You're a Gen Z voice in Bitcoin, and you're already making big waves. Your Orange Peel podcast is incredible. It's incredible to see what you've started, and I can't wait to see where it goes, because you've got this very unique approach where there's no jargon. You're just having raw conversations, Gen Z lens. And you've only discovered Bitcoin in 2025, but it seems like you've already fully grasped its significance for humanity. So can you take us back to your Bitcoin journey, and how did you come to this awakening so quickly?
Yeah, so my Bitcoin journey came in stages. So I grew up in a family that put a lot of emphasis on being financially literate. So I was growing up reading books about money. My dad handed me The Psychology of Money at the age of 16, and he's, read this, you need to know before you start picking your career and actually making money. I first heard of it back in like 2017, obviously, when it was making big headlines and everyone was like, I'm rich, I'm gonna cash out and go on a vacation. And my parents were talking about it at the dinner table, but I was like 11 at the time. So it really didn't make any sense to me. And then I heard of it again in 2022 when I was writing a paper for school. And I decided to write the paper on the global financial crisis of 2008. And I ended up coming across Bitcoin during my research because it came out around that time. The white paper was released in 2009. And I read through the white paper a bit and I examined blockchain, SHA-256, hash functions, all of that. And I was really interested because I'm also a computer science student. So like this stuff is so fascinating to me. I knew of it back then and I was like, this is really cool. But I had no idea the economic aspect or implications or benefits of it at all. I came across it again in 2025 when my parents were pretty orange pilled and they were like, hey, just give this a shot. And I was like, you know what? Okay. They sat me down. I started out with What's the Problem by Joe Bryan. And I was like, wow, like this makes sense. The past 2 years that I've been living abroad and going to college, I've noticed the price of my coffee going up. My rent has increased twice in 2 years. And things are just costing more and more. And I feel like I have been needing to budget more and more every single month, or maybe every single quarter. I feel like every single month is a bit dramatic. So I watched the video, I connected the dots, I started having more and more conversations with my parents about just why I felt so, I don't want to say nihilistic because I think that's very extreme, but pretty, I guess, pessimistic about my money and about my future. And they were like, think about Bitcoin. So I started reading a few books. I read The Bitcoin Standard. I read Broken Money. I'm reading The Price of Tomorrow right now. And things are starting to come more and more to me. And I'm only doing what I can. I think you're being really generous and really nice by saying I've got a grasp on it. But I'm only doing what I can. And it's conversations like these that really help me learn.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking about your story. I love hearing about different Bitcoiners' journeys and how they came to their realizations. And you're absolutely right that it's a never-ending journey, really. Even people who have been in Bitcoin for so long, they're still learning every day. You can never really say that you've mastered it. So you're right. What impressed me the most is how you got it so quickly, because normally it takes people years to get to where you're at. And I know you're going to keep learning, and it's going to be an incredible journey for you, like it is for other Bitcoiners. But I'm curious,
Yeah,
what was your life path like before you found Bitcoin? And how does your life path look now? Has it shifted?
definitely. I am someone who has always had my future planned out. I think as much as you can, obviously, when you're in high school and you're in college. So it's always been go to college, get the CS degree, graduate, get a job in Meta, Amazon, Google, some of the big names, make a good six-figure salary, get married, have kids, have a family, retire. Like that's it. That's just been it for me. But I think now with obviously AI coming in the game and everything is just changing dramatically, and in my field more than any of the others. So
Mhm.
it just looks so uncertain right now. And Bitcoin kind of is offering this clarity. I don't want to say a light at the end of the tunnel because I think that's like
Mhm.
cheesy, but it is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Mhm.
So it's now that I know of Bitcoin and now that I am starting to understand it and how it's going to play a role in my future and my peers' future, I think that my life path has just shifted completely. Now I cannot work corporate. Honestly, like the thought of working in a corporate job in a 9 to 5 for some big tech company, it sounds so excruciating and it goes against almost entirely what Bitcoin stands for. You don't have control of your own life. There's no concept of self-sovereignty. It's just you don't have freedom. So since discovering Bitcoin, I've been thinking a lot more about maybe being able to do content full time if Orange Peel is something that continues to grow. And I would love it if that happened. Or entrepreneurship. I never really gave entrepreneurship a thought, but I think with Bitcoin becoming more and more adopted, we're going to see a lot of smaller businesses that are AI focused. And I think it would be really great to be able to build something and connect what I love about computers and machine learning with a form of sound, hard, really cool money.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know I went on a bit of a tangent there, but
Yeah, no, I love hearing your story because that's what happened to me as well. Bitcoin really just changes your lens on how you see the entire world, and that inevitably changes how you see the rest of your life unfolding. And I'm so grateful that I found Bitcoin because I look back and I feel like I was just living in a daze almost, whereas Bitcoin gave me clarity. And now I'm just super excited for however the future is going to unfold. But it's going to be on my terms and it's going to be my creation as opposed to living on other people's terms or living in other people's reality, which is often an illusion. Now that we have Bitcoin to change our lens, we can design our own life path. And that's such a beautiful, empowering thing. And it's so exciting for me to see young people like you make that realization before you go too far down this other path. And
yeah.
yeah, I'm just so excited to see how your future will unfold and how other Bitcoiners' futures will unfold. Because if you don't get on this Bitcoin train, you're going to be in an uphill battle. You're going to get left behind. But if you just ride this Bitcoin train, wherever your life takes you, it's going to be a beautiful place.
Yeah, definitely. And I think part of the best part about discovering Bitcoin is getting to see other Gen Z people who are in this space. I know recently you
Mhm.
had Jacob on your show,
Yeah.
and he's great, man. It's so cool to see like someone who's, I think he's like 21 or 22, someone
Mhm.
who's in my age group who's so young compared to the rest of the Bitcoiners, who already has such a great grasp
Yeah.
on what it is and how to help kind of orange pill, I guess, the rest of our generation. It's been awesome. It's been a really cool journey so far.
Yeah, that's why I'm so excited to see what you're doing. And that's why I decided to start doing what I'm doing, is because we've been so profoundly impacted by Bitcoin and we can see how it just makes your life so much better. It makes your life better in every possible way. Why wouldn't we want to share that with our friends and with the rest of the world? Because in the same way that our lives have gotten better on an individual basis, if we can spread this to other people, it means that's what's going to be happening on the level of society. If society can snap out of the days that it's in and come to this place of being more empowered and more aligned with truth, it's going to just be incredible for all of society and lead to this collective awakening for society. And I know you've already had a lot of success with orange pilling your friends, and it looks like your podcast is already educating people. So I'm curious, what's your strategy? How do you make Bitcoin click for people your age?
This is a bit of a tough one because I think it really depends on the person. And I think if you look at my ratio of success to failures, like it's not great. I think it's like maybe 1 to 8. So it's pretty tough. But I like to start by asking a lot of my friends what they're noticing about their money. So I like to ask them, number one, are they earning? Two, if they're earning, where does that money go? Are you getting paid in cash? Are you getting that a check deposited into your savings account? And then is it just sitting there? Is anything going into your retirement fund? What are you doing with your money, basically? So I am friends with a lot of finance and economics students. And I think because of that, they already have a knowledge of how money works and how to have good saving and investing habits. So then comes the struggle of trying to change what they invest in. I have a lot of friends who so I study in Australia, and a lot of my friends are either Australian or they're international students. I don't have any American friends here at all. But a lot of them love to invest in the S&P 500. Naturally, I feel like that's where you start to invest. Or they'll invest in the markets back home. So I have a lot of people that have come here from India. They like to invest in companies like Tata, Jet King, etc. back home. I asked them, what the point of that is, because the S&P has returns of estimated like 8 to 10%, but inflation it's a guaranteed 2 to 3%, but in reality, people like to say it's 7 to 8%. So I provide them with facts. I'm like, hey, did you know this? Or check this out. I send them articles that I read about Bitcoin, or if I see an X post that I'm like, oh, this is really interesting, sending that in the group chat, always sharing videos in the group chat. So it really comes down to who the person is and how you can connect Bitcoin with them. I have a lot of obviously computer science friends as well because that's what I'm studying. So the way that I go about Bitcoin with them is I literally just send them the white paper, like section of the white paper that explains blockchain and the encryption algorithm. I send that to them. And then I'm like, isn't this the coolest thing you've ever seen? Isn't it awesome? And I have a friend, and he is very into CS. He's very into computers. He wants to go into computer science research and algorithms. And I think his goal is he wants to develop an algorithm and name it after himself. So just to give an idea of, he's a big nerd. So I sent him a video on how Bitcoin actually works, and that was the thing that made it click for him. He didn't care about the price go up stuff. He didn't care he didn't care about inflation, which to me was insane, but I understand it if money's not something that you think about in that way. But when he saw the technology into it, when he saw that this is quite literally the most decentralized thing, the most objective thing that we have in the entire world, he was like, oh my gosh, this is insane.
Yeah. Thank you for that explanation. It's definitely the case that you have to take a different approach depending on who you're talking to. But I love how you do it on such a logical level. And your story with your friend reminds me of this thing I just saw yesterday. This guy who apparently has the highest IQ in the world, he's coming out and saying that he looked over everything with having to do with Bitcoin, and he came to the realization that it's the only thing that can really save our financial system. And he said he put 100% of his net worth in there. So it kind of mirrors that story you just said about your smart computer science friend, because if you just look at it and if you just put some time and do some research into it, everyone comes to the same conclusion that Bitcoin is inevitable. And everyone always comes to the same conclusion that they start allocating more and more money to it. And the more research that you do, the higher percentage that you allocate to it. Michael Saylor says he's never met a critic of Bitcoin who did more than 10 hours of research. Anyone who's done 10 hours of research, it's not possible to be a critic of Bitcoin because there's just nothing to find about it. Most of the bad stuff people hear about it is all FUD that's actually not true. And a lot of times with the FUD that they put out, the opposite is actually true, which is pretty crazy. Yeah.
Something that I think about a lot in that on that point a bit is if you think about a lot of the bad stuff that you hear about Bitcoin, you have to look at where it's coming from. Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the things that are critical of Bitcoin come from A, the media, B, like people on the internet, like Reddit mods,
Mm-hmm.
or there's a thing on social media where people are like, oh, Bitcoin's like for crypto bros, it's for finance bros, it's none of my business. What makes it for crypto bros? What makes it for finance bros? Who
Mm-hmm.
told you that this is such a closed off community and that it's not for everyone? So it's really interesting to see how the world is, I think, polarized when it comes to Bitcoin. Either there's people who are
Mm-hmm.
like, this is the future, this is all in, which for us, because we are those people, this is the right way, and we can't really understand how anyone could be critical of it. But on the other hand, you have people that are like, this is a bunch of baloney. What does this even mean? How are you going to have money on the internet? That's insane. So it's just interesting. I think really reflective of the climate that we live in as well.
Yeah, I love a couple of points you made about how Bitcoin is for everyone. And that's why shows like yours are so essential because it can be intimidating. I can definitely see how someone who doesn't know much about it can get very intimidated. And I could definitely see how people would think it's just for crypto bros or finance people, but it really is for everyone. No matter what you do in life, Bitcoin is for you. So don't be intimidated at all. If you have any curiosity, it's important to explore that curiosity and ask questions. And now is the greatest time because now there's so much educational materials out there. There's so many regular, normal people like me and you who are trying to just spread the good news. So if you have any kind of curiosity, the information is out there. Yeah, I definitely encourage people to be curious. And what you said about the bad stuff, you got to think about where it's coming from. That's one of the beautiful things about Bitcoin as well is it allows you to think more critically and allows you to see the world from a different lens. Whereas before, you might just assume everything that you see in the media is true. When you discover Bitcoin, it forces you to have more sovereignty, not just with your finances, but with your thoughts too. And you realize how much of our thoughts are not really our own, and they're just implanted from the media and from social media and TV and movies. And so that's one of the more empowering things that I really appreciate about Bitcoin is that it allowed me to take back my own thoughts and take control of my mind. So Bitcoin is so much
Yeah,
more than just money.
yeah,
And
definitely. I like 100% agree. And the biggest thing that I think would benefit Gen Z from Bitcoin is the critical thinking, like you said. We live in an age where almost all of the knowledge that my generation consumes is from TikTok, or it's
Mhm.
from Instagram, or it's from X. It's from some form of social media. And social media can be a great tool, but it cannot be the place where you get your news and your information from. So
Yeah.
when you are just sitting there and you're consuming hours and hours of other people's content, you aren't having any original thought. Anything that you go on to say, anything that you talk with your friends about is just going to be
Mhm.
regurgitated,
Mhm.
and it just basically a mural of every single thing you've
Mhm.
consumed that day. And I guess you can make an argument that, it's always been like this. When you read books, when you watch movies, you're consuming that content. But the problem with TikTok is this is all short form content too. You are probably watching videos for 15, 20 seconds before you scroll. How much of that are you really comprehending? How much of that could be fake stuff that you're not really doing
Mhm.
your research into? So we're at such a great risk for misinformation and almost indoctrination into things that aren't even true with short form content. So, yeah, Bitcoin, critical thinking, especially when we are living in a day where critical thinking is like this buzzword where everyone's, I'm a critical thinker, I'm a free thinker. No, you're not, I am. It's it's a lot's going on, and I truly believe no one is a critical thinker until you discover what it means to be self-sovereign. Basically, what it means to be a Bitcoiner.
That was very beautifully said. Thank you for breaking it down like that because that kind of gets to this thing that I talk about with Bitcoin is that it's so much bigger than money. We're talking about a spiritual battle here. And there's a spiritual battle going on in our world and in our society. And it's a battle of ideas and energies. And when you talk about it the way that you're talking about it, with people just being indoctrinated by social media, that's a part of the battle that's going on. And Bitcoin is the key to the good side winning the spiritual battle because it represents truth. So in the world that we're entering now, we're just going to be flooded with information, which is a beautiful thing because we have access to all the information in the world, but it's also a dangerous thing because people have to be getting the correct information. And that's what I love about Bitcoin is that it gets to the objective truth of information. And that's what the problem is with our society is you've got opinions. People believe this, people believe that. And Bitcoin cuts through all of that. It doesn't really care what you believe. It just is, and it represents truth. It's the one source of truth that we can count on. And then we can use that as a foundation and build from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's as I mentioned earlier, it's the only objective thing that we have in our society right now. And that comes purely from the fact that it's completely decentralized and there are no humans involved. Because as long as you're going to have humans
Mhm.
involved, you're going to have subjectivity.
Yeah. And that's why I got so excited when I saw your podcast because I sometimes get discouraged because in my everyday life, there's very few Bitcoiners that I know of. It wasn't until I started going to Bitcoin meetups locally that I actually started talking to actual Bitcoiners in real life. And to see you starting your channel and talking to Gen Z, I realized that's going to be so crucial to have people in your generation start to wake up to this. Do you feel like more people are waking up and grasping its significance? Or do you feel like I feel where you're just shocked that so many people aren't seeing it around you?
I think I am seeing more people wake up. And I think part of that can be attributed to the fact that I'm getting deeper and deeper into the community every single day. So it feels
Hmm.
like there are more people around me that are waking up. But genuinely, I talk to a lot of my friends and they're like, okay, like I never thought of this before, but now I'm going to think about it. So I just last night actually I put out a video on how to actually buy Bitcoin. And I put out this video because
Hmm.
I had an influx of DMs and texts from my friends being like, okay, we're convinced, but how do I actually buy this? Can you
Hmm.
walk us through? And that moment, I was like, wow, like I didn't even think that my friends were watching my videos,
Hmm.
but they are, and
Hmm.
it's awesome. And then that coupled with meeting more Gen Z creators in this space. So there are quite a few like
Hmm.
really great ones. There's Joey from Sats Venture.
Yeah.
He's really great. He's 21 and he's all in on Bitcoin. There's Finn, he's 26 and he has his own podcast as well. And he loves to talk about the mortgage crisis and how it's not really feasible for Gen Z to buy a home either.
Hmm.
Well, there are a lot of young ones. I think Robin Sarah, he's also Gen Z, which I know you wouldn't think it. He's like 26 or something, but he's Gen Z, so he's still in our age range. And when I started out with Bitcoin, I didn't come across these podcasts. So that's why I was like,
Hmm.
huh, like you really like this space really needs some more young people. And I still do think that we need more young people. But I also think we need more creators in the space in general. But it's been really great to see more and more people around me just popping up and being like, I'm a Gen Z creator. I'm a Gen Z creator. There's Jordan at Gen Z BTs. He's great. His videos are so entertaining. They're so funny.
Hmm.
And these guys really just break it down so well. And they all have their own little niches. So that's what I wanted Orange Peel to be as well. And I think something that I'm thinking about right now is how to get the girls into Bitcoin because so the problem I'm having with a lot of my friends, especially the ones that are girls, is they're just like, yeah, we don't think about finances, we don't think about money. And I really hate to say it, but our generation has a huge spending problem, especially within the young women. And
Hmm.
this can be attributed to so many things. There's the rise of fast fashion culture, there's social media. So you scroll and you're like, oh, this skirt looks cute, but so does
Hmm.
this. Next thing you
Hmm.
know, your like cart has 15 or 16 items in it and you're checking out, spending $200 just like that. That's not normal. This is not normal. This is literally capitalism. This is consumer culture feeding off of the group of people that is the most susceptible to this, and that is young Gen Z women. It's been That's what Orange Peel's here for. I think I am trying to put more and more emphasis on why younger women need to maybe not start investing, but at least be aware about Bitcoin, be aware about what this thing actually is. I'm really not trying to be someone who's, you need to buy Bitcoin or your future is basically screwed. Because That's not necessarily true, but I do think that anyone who does find Bitcoin is going to have a really great future. So it goes one way, but not the other.
Yeah, I love how you broke that down and how you talk about it on such a like a personal level in terms of like real world issues that Bitcoin solves. And that issue that you pointed out with young women consuming, that's an issue for our entire society. We all have been trained to be consumers. And I noticed that in myself, that once I found Bitcoin, I look back, I'm like, man, why did I buy this stuff? Why did I want these shoes? Why did I want that watch? Why do I even really want a house? And you start to realize that we've just been conditioned our entire lives to want to consume. And it's incredible for your soul. Your soul feels so much more at peace when you shift out of that consumer mindset and into the creator mindset. And Bitcoiners, it's very common that Bitcoiners want to just create. You want to do something with your life and use your unique life force to put something out into the world as opposed to just consuming. And it makes you just put your whole life into perspective and realize what actually does provide meaning in your life. Does having a nice watch or nice clothes provide meaning? It really doesn't. If you change your lens on things, you realize that what really creates meaning is like being on your purpose and providing value to the world. And I had read about this stuff before Bitcoin and I knew it on an intellectual level, but Bitcoin helped me really internalize it and feel it on a soul level.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think one thing that my dad loves to tell me about is I think maybe Michael Saylor. Somebody said that you don't need more than one chair in your house. And I think that is so representative of where Bitcoiners are in terms of consuming. Because I guess logically it makes sense. Like you don't need more than one chair in your house. Everyone likes to have a chair. Maybe they need one at their desk, need a couch. Like so it's really funny because I think there are two sides of the spectrum, and people tend to be very extreme towards one another. And most of people are on the consumerist side where we continue buying. I'm guilty of this myself. Like I have a shopping problem. We all have spending addictions. We continue shopping and shopping. It's really hard to walk home from uni and I surpass some stores and I'm like, wait, like that looks cute. Like maybe I can just drop 20 bucks,
Mhm.
keep dropping 20 bucks. Eventually in a month you realize you've spent maybe 150, $160. It's not normal.
Yeah, yeah, it's not normal. And yeah, Bitcoin doesn't just automatically make it so you're not a consumer at all, but it just makes you question it a little bit more. And that questioning will gradually make you buy less and less over time, which is pretty incredible because it forces you to think, do I really need this? If I didn't buy this, then I could buy 10 times as much in just a few years. So forcing you to make that decision is one of the most beautiful things about Bitcoin is just that low time preference. And have you seen that Bitcoin changed you as a person, changed your values?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've only been really immersed in this space ever since I started Orange Peel. So it's been about a month-ish, a month and a half now. It's been a really small amount of time, but honestly, yes, I'm giving a lot more importance to things like family, spending time with my friends, getting time outside in the sun, as opposed to constantly being stuck inside and studying. And my social life is going out with my friends, maybe to the bar or to a party or something like that. Doing a lot less of that and more just let's go out on a walk. Let's just spend some good quality one-on-one time where we can have real conversations. I'm reading a lot more books. This is really important for people. We're living in a media literacy crisis where, again, because of the rise of short form content like TikTok and Reels, a lot of Gen Z, our attention spans are like that of a peanut. It's really bad. So my friends, a lot of them, they don't read. They're
Mhm.
unable to sit down and watch movies that are an hour and a half, 2 hours long. So that's too long for me. We prefer shorter TV shows as opposed to longer sitcoms. Like when I look at Grey's Anatomy and I see that it has what, like 20 seasons or something, that's insane. I won't ever sit down to watch that because it's 20 seasons long. How am I expected to be devoting that much of my life to one thing? So, since discovering Bitcoin and having that internal push to read these books and consume this knowledge and watch these podcasts with people that are like an hour and a half or 2 hours, some of them get to 2.5 and 3 hours long, but I'll sit down and I'll watch it. My attention span has improved so much. I have had so much more determination and concentration and just focus in being able to do these things. What is the word I'm looking for? Conviction. Conviction is the word that I'm looking for. I'm a lot more convicted in the things that I believe in. So honestly, Bitcoin has just changed the game for me, not even financially or with money. It's just changed my life in the span of a month and a half.
That's incredible. And in just a month and a half, that's insane. This Bitcoin is just so powerful. It's incredible. It's this force for just pure goodness. And I love that you discovered it and that you're now becoming a node in the network and you're waking up other nodes. It's such a beautiful process. And it's so incredible that we're all a part of this awakening. There's this concept called self Bitcoinization, which is basically when you discover Bitcoin and start to hold Bitcoin, you start to take on some of the principles of Bitcoin yourself. And that's what you're alluding to, how you change your habits, you changed your values, and you've just become a better person overall. And it's incredible to see you describe that in just a month and a half. Imagine how your life is going to be after years or decades now that you're on this Bitcoin path. Yeah, thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, no, of course. It's insane to think about. And I think right now we are living in a time societally where everything feels very depressing. Everything feels
Mhm.
very nihilistic.
Mhm.
I opened up Instagram because I think since starting this Bitcoin journey, I've gotten off social media as well. So that's been another added
Mhm.
plus point where I've been like, I need to get off these apps. I can't do TikTok anymore. I can't do Instagram. But when I was on those apps, every single day I was opening up and seeing stories of people posting this activist thing or this horrible thing that happened. And then you start your day, and it's 7 a.m. You're scrolling through, you're starting your day feeling awful.
Mhm.
That doesn't happen with Bitcoin because when
Mhm.
you open up your phone and I open up X, all I'm seeing is people being like, Bitcoin is the best thing that's ever happened to me. It makes you feel better. And optimism and a glimpse of hope is something that we really need right now, especially for young people in Gen Z, and especially those who are in college or graduating college right now. Just because of the fact that the job market is awful. This is probably the worst job market that we've seen in the near past, I think. And it's just awful. It's just awful. And Bitcoin is really something that has made me more hopeful and made me more optimistic about the future. So this goes back to when you asked me if my life path has changed. Setting aside my career aspirations and the values that I hold and the life that I envision for myself, just the fact that I'm more hopeful and I'm more excited to graduate college and start doing what I actually want in the world, that in itself should speak volumes about how powerful Bitcoin really is.
Yeah, a really beautiful thing to see you really just embodying this Bitcoin ethos because I've heard that's actually the best way to orange pill someone is to just live in alignment with Bitcoin's ethos and then you'll radiate that out. And then that alone is a great way to orange pill people. But in addition to embodying Bitcoin, you're also doing what you're doing with the podcast. And yeah, incredible to see you spreading this message. And that's why I really wanted to have you on the show because when I first started seeing your videos, I was like, this generation really needs to see that there is hope because I can only imagine what it's like to be in your generation. And if you didn't see Bitcoin or if you didn't know that Bitcoin was there, I don't know how you would have hope because things are looking so bleak. But I do think that also there's the silver lining there is that because things are so bleak, I'm hoping that actually leads people towards Bitcoin. Do you feel like that's the case? If things weren't so bleak, maybe they wouldn't find it. But because things are so bleak, it increased the chances they'll find it.
I think that should be the case,
Yeah.
100%. If you think
Yeah.
about it logically, it should be the case, like end of story. The problem is it's not because Bitcoin is it's viewed as so inaccessible to anyone who's not a
Mhm,
big,
mhm,
especially to anyone who's not an investor whatsoever.
mhm,
So for someone who literally they make their money and their paycheck could just get sent to their savings account, Bitcoin is probably one of the hardest things that they could come to understand. And this the reason for this is the I think the type of people that started out with Bitcoin, like it started out as something that was on the internet and people were
mhm,
talking about it in subreddits and Discord servers. So it got associated with gamers, crypto bros, finance bros, and it wasn't something that was for Bitcoin itself was something that was for everybody, but Bitcoin culture, the community that was built around Bitcoin way back when, was very selective. It was very small. And now that Gen Z is growing up, we know what we know about Bitcoin. We know that it's done crazy price go up numbers, and we know that it's a cryptocurrency. At the end of the day, it's a cryptocurrency. And that word in itself is so daunting to so many Gen Z, especially because if you
mhm,
think about it, Gen Z runs from 1996 to I think maybe it's like 2010 or something like that.
mhm,
So the youngest Gen Z is what, 16, 15, 16 years old? That's really young. That's really young. The brunt of Gen Z is in college. We're entering our 20s. So now is the time that we're really getting into thinking about our money and thinking about investing. And the traditional path that we're always told is put it in the S&P, put it in your Roth IRA, which I'm not saying you shouldn't put it in your Roth IRA, you should. But these are the things that we're told to do, or just leave it in an account that has 3% interest, 4% interest, and you're good. You gamed the system. You haven't gamed the system. And it's just because of the fact that I think there need to be more people talking about it. And if we get more people talking about it and Bitcoin gets is just said in more people's ears, then we're going to see a bigger shift into a Bitcoin culture. Again, as you mentioned, because of the nihilism that my generation tends to have when it comes to our finances.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's like I said earlier, that's exactly why I got into this to just represent like a normal person who's not a crypto bro, not into finance. I'm just a normal person that wanted to figure out the safest place to put my money to protect my time and energy. And that is not unique to me or to a crypto bro. That's unique to every single person on this planet. And that's why we say Bitcoin is for everyone. But I'm just curious because Gen Z, they've they're the first generation to really grow up in a purely digital age. So I was thinking that would make it easier for them to grasp Bitcoin, but it sounds like you're not so sure about that.
I think the idea of having digital money is
Mhm,
definitely easier to grasp for Gen Z than it is for the older generations. And this is a good thing. This is a starting point because now we don't have to explain that computers are evil and they're going to steal all your details and all that stuff, all that sci-fi stuff. But the problem is we're living in an age where technology is changing drastically. If you compare where we are now to where we were at the start of 2024 with just AI, it's
mhm,
two completely different worlds. In 2024, at the start, we had ChatGPT. It wasn't as widespread. Now, you could go to anyone on the street and it would probably take you maybe 9 to 10 people to find someone who doesn't use ChatGPT.
mhm,
And it won't be because they don't know what ChatGPT is, it'll be because they have something against it, like morally.
mhm,
So, because of that, because of where tech is and how quickly it's changing, we're seeing a lot of Gen Z kind of start to distrust technology.
mhm,
And I totally understand that there's a
mhm,
whole issue with Facebook and or Meta and Google, Amazon, all these companies stealing, not stealing, but taking data and taking a lot of data. So people want to be smarter with that. People want to be more private, and Bitcoiners are the same way. We like living private lives. We're all about, like I said, self-sovereignty. So this makes it really hard for people to trust Bitcoin because it is all computers. So something that needs to be explained is that yes, it's all computers, but there are no humans. And the problem that we're seeing in the big tech companies is we're seeing computers being used for humans' greed and humans' evil, or not evil, but greed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just something that needs to be explained. And that's why we need more people like you, more Bitcoin educators, more people sharing their stories and being like, listen, you're a doctor and you're in Bitcoin completely. It's insane to think about. It's crazy
Mm-hmm.
that normal people that we might interact with in our everyday lives are shifting into this mindset of being all in on digital money. Yes, we are digitally native, but at the same time, we're very distrusting of anything digital.
That is an excellent point and an excellent answer. And I hadn't really thought about it from that angle. So thank you for providing that insight. And that it does touch on something that I often feel a lot too, is that Bitcoin gets lumped into the category of being the opposite of what it actually is. And it frustrates me to no end when people mistake crypto for Bitcoin and when they distrust technology. So then they lump Bitcoin into that category as being something to not trust when Bitcoin actually represents the opposite of that. So it was created for that exact reason because you can't trust technology. That's why Bitcoin was created. It's trustless. Like you said, there's no humans. And that's why we need to keep doing what we're doing because people need to know that this is actually the answer to all of the things that you're worried about. There's so much things that are wrong in this world, and Bitcoin actually is a solution for 99% of the issues that you're concerned about. And it's just a matter of recognizing it and spreading this message. And yeah, I saw recently that the problem with people not being able to understand Bitcoin is that the idea is just so big. It's just such a big idea that you can't really grasp it because it's so big. It's such a paradigm shift. And that's why it's so incredible to be a part of this Bitcoin wave because we recognize how massive this idea is. This is a once in a species discovery. And here we are in the first 16 years. How lucky are we to be alive right now? And that's what I want to spread. I just want to spread the good news that we are so lucky for this to be at the beginning of this paradigm shifting technology.
100%. We are so lucky and we're so grateful as well.
Mm.
Bitcoiners are some of the most grateful people on this entire planet. We really enjoy the little things in life that we often take for granted or that we took for granted before we discovered Bitcoin. And the awesome thing about all of these Bitcoin podcasts is we all have our own little niches. So it's
Mm.
I go on YouTube at the end of my day and I see all the uploads from all the Bitcoin channels that I subscribe and they're on like a plethora of different topics. It's awesome. There's no, I think, lack of Bitcoin knowledge. Once you think you know everything, if you think you know 90% of Bitcoin, you probably know about 5%, in all honesty, because there's so much just out there and there's so much left to learn on how Bitcoin fits in different parts of life for different people, working different careers at different ages in different parts of the planet. It's just awesome. It's a digital gold mine for knowledge. It's incredible. And I'm so grateful and so lucky to, like you said, be a part of the early adoption.
Yeah, I think that's a good theme for this show is that Bitcoin is for everyone. And we say it as Bitcoiners, but I think it's actually much deeper than it appears on the surface. It really is for everyone. And if people can understand that and if that message just gets out to people and that message alone allows them to look into it a little bit more and not be intimidated by it, then that's really the goal of what I'm doing. And I think what you're doing is just make it more welcoming for people, make it realize that it really is for everyone. It really is for you. And I'm still just blown away by how much it's affected you in such a short amount of time and by how well spoken you are on this. And I can't wait to see what the future holds in store for you. And I can't wait to keep following your show. What is your future vision for your show?
I think I just want to keep putting out videos on everything. And right now, I'm very why Gen Z and why Bitcoin. But eventually, I want to shift still with Gen Z, but maybe why Bitcoin and why AI. I want to be able to talk about the things that I'm interested in that align with Bitcoin, but maybe aren't Bitcoin itself, aren't a part of the core network. This is something that I want to be putting my full time and energy into, and I'm doing as much as I can right now with uni. I think like it's so hard for me to sit down and actually do my coursework,
Mm.
constantly thinking about what kinds of videos I should make and what is the next thing I want to learn, what's the next book I'm going to read. I would love to get to a point where this is all that I'm doing, and my only mission is to just spread the word and have more conversations, learn more things. Because even if Orange Peel doesn't become big, even if I'm not able to make a career out of it, I'm still learning. And I'm learning stuff that I can't learn if I'm just consuming a bunch of videos on the internet. Having conversations is very different to listening to conversations. When you're having them, you're present, you're constantly thinking of follow-up questions, and it's just a totally different experience. And at the very least, I want to keep having Bitcoin conversations throughout my future. I want to be friends with a bunch of Bitcoiners. I want to go to Bitcoin conferences. I'm going to my first one in December. I'm going to Bitcoin Mina, and I'm so pumped for it. I'm nervous, but I'm so pumped because I'm like, I'm going to meet so many people. I'm going to talk to this person about this and this person about this. And I get to watch Michael Saylor talk for the first time. And I'm like, psyched. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go in with my little like notepad and pencil and write down every single thing that he
Mm.
says. I'm treating this basically like a lecture. So that's my biggest thing for my future. I just want to be living as much on a Bitcoin standard as I possibly can.
Yeah, you're right. Bitcoiners just exude a certain type of energy that's incredibly infectious. And yeah, it's incredible to be around other Bitcoiners. And it's really intoxicating. And it makes you really see the contrast between the fiat world and the Bitcoin world. And yeah, I think a lot of Bitcoiners, our goal is to live as much as we can in that Bitcoin world, but it's often not possible. We have to straddle these two worlds right now. We're in this liminal space where something new is emerging, but the old hasn't quite fallen off yet. And it's a scary place to be, but it's also a beautiful place to be. And yeah, I just wanted to really thank you for coming on the show. And yeah, I can't wait to see where your channel goes. And yeah, we should keep in touch. And anything else you wanted to say before we close it out?
No, that's it for me. Thank you for having me on. This is always so much fun. I love getting to go on other podcasts and talk because when you're interviewing someone, you don't really get to share your story as much. So this is awesome. And I definitely have to have you on Orange Peel as well.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah, you've got a fascinating story. So thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate your time. Take care. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of The Signal. In a world drowning in noise, signal is everything. Most people are overwhelmed, distracted, and deceived, not because they lack intelligence, but because they've lost the ability to discern what truly matters. But signal cuts through the noise. And Bitcoin is pure signal. It doesn't promise. It doesn't lie. It doesn't bend to opinion or propaganda. It just is. And as the world descends into even more chaos, distraction, and distortion, your ability to identify signal, to recognize what's real, true, and timeless will be one of your greatest assets. So stay sharp, stay sovereign, stay tuned, because here on The Signal, we don't follow trends, we follow truth. I'm Dr. Satoshi, and in a world of noise, we are the signal.